Okay, cool. We're rolling, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Face the Truth podcast. I'm really excited to have my guest, Lindsey Lively. She's an awesome artist. I've been following her on Instagram. And there's a handful of artists out there that, that I get excited every time I see a post, and she's definitely one of them. She does really awesome work. It feels original. I think that's what I'm drawn to. She's got a really nice original style. So we're going to get into it. So everyone, please welcome Lindsey Lively. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. This is awesome. I really, really love your work. That's why I reached out to you. I reached out to you a while ago, and you said no. And I felt
Yeah.
really lame and sad.
Oh,
But
I'm sorry. I watched your last podcast and you said that you have trouble getting females on your show.
yes, it's really weird. It's funny. I said this to Sean last week. It's very strange. People have literally have written me about this. Like,
Yeah.
why is there no girls? And it's like, trust me, I have asked. You know, but no, it's great. The truth is I don't think about any of that stuff when I invite a guest on my podcast. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I just think about, hey, this person's work is amazing. There's some people that have asked me to be on my podcast. I didn't even know they were a woman. I just saw the work and then I'm like, cool, you know. But yeah, I actually had a one person that said that they don't even go to their own showings. You know, they're like
Uh,
really shy, and I'm like, okay, that's cool.
huh. Well,
No,
I
but
thought that was really interesting because I'm always like turning down stuff because I don't know, it's just like I don't know, I think that women might feel like a extra social pressure from
mm,
like that we put on ourselves, but also like I don't know, we sense it from society maybe too. I
yeah,
just found it interesting that that you said you noticed that women didn't
hmm
want to come on your podcast a lot.
maybe
I
it's
thought it was
me.
just me.
No, I think maybe I scare women. I don't know. It's weird
Yeah.
because like I have almost four daughters, three in a on the way daughters, number four on the way. So I like girls. What's the deal? Um, no, but seriously, like it is kind of a strange thing. But your work is so cool, and I think I started noticing it. Man, maybe a couple years ago, my buddy Tom Fluharty, I think, shared your work, and
Um,
yeah, and I thought you were related to him because he goes sometimes by Thomas Lively sometimes.
mhm.
So I thought,
Yeah.
wait a minute, is this like a family member? Um,
Yeah, I get that a lot. Like, not too long ago, someone messaged me on Instagram with this like really long message, thinking that I was his daughter, and
mhm.
he was asking for gift recommendations because he was going to visit them.
Oh, that's
But
hilarious.
yeah, it was funny.
That's awesome. So, what you actually said was that you were really busy working on some new work, and putting yourself through a lot of stuff like work wise, and I think maybe you said school something or something. I can't remember
Mhm.
exactly now, but
Yeah.
um, what you've been doing? Like, what's the new stuff been that you've been working on?
Yeah, I just started, well, gosh, my first semester is done already, but last fall I started graduate school at Cranbrook Academy of Art. So it's like right outside of Detroit.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. And so that's what I've been doing. I basically I wanted to get my MFA because um, I'm interested in teaching and maybe becoming a professor because it's stable income and like I'm not
Oh,
very good at hustling,
yeah.
and if you want to make it just selling your artwork or selling your artwork and doing workshops too, maybe like it's just so much hustle,
Mm-hmm.
constant peddling your work and promoting your work. And
Stressful.
yeah, I would love to just have like a stable income that teaching could bring. So
Yeah, I know exactly what I like. I relate.
yeah.
Um, Yeah. But no, that's really cool though. Also, you know what? And I'm not saying this. I'm not trying to diss any professors out there because I don't know very many. Um, but I did go to art school for a little bit, and I know I have a lot of friends that have gone to different art schools, and it you just your work ethic and your approach to painting would be an amazing gift for students because
Uh,
a lot of art school teachers that I've run into. I'm not even saying my school. I actually went to a school not that long ago to look at a like it was like a school show or like a senior show, and like most of the professors weren't even painter, like didn't even couldn't even
yeah.
do it, Um, and you could tell because when you saw the students' artwork, it was just like, whoa, what's going on here? Um, so that's amazing because I mean, having someone like you that not only can paint, but you've got, I think what's cool about your work is you've got a strong aesthetic, which I think is very, very important. Because I mean, I guess it sounds silly to say everybody can draw and paint. I mean, not everybody can,
Yeah.
but you know, it's the aesthetic to painting is something that is what separates you, right? What makes you stand out from other people. And
Yeah.
that's something that's not as common because you look online, you see so much art that just looks all the same, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Because there's methods that, really popular methods that go around that people can, just learn and get really, really good at if they put enough time into it. And I think because I'm self-taught, which I think makes some things more difficult, but it also kind of gives you, if you carry your work far enough, being self-taught, I think it gives you like an automatic signature to your work,
yeah.
like a style signature, like
Hmm.
so yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I get told that all the time that I have a like I can tell it's your piece right away, and I'm self-taught as well. And I think what it is um, being very dedicated, working really hard, putting many many hours into it, and learning how not to do things right because you
Yeah.
basically learn by mistake. Like well that's not working, and I don't know about you, but like when I was at the beginnings of my trying to teach myself how to paint and kind of do illustration work, just figuring it out by looking at different artists. I was just experimenting with tons of different mediums, just seeing what they could do, seeing what worked, um, and a lot of times looking at artists that I liked and thought that they were using a certain medium, which they actually weren't, and then trying to teach myself how to use this medium to look like someone else's work, and then it just I can't get it, and then I find out later, oh, they were using color pencils or whatever,
Yeah.
and oh,
Yeah.
so
That's funny because like I started using acrylics just because they're cheaper and easier to use like right at first, and I had been doing digital painting, so I think that they're closer to digital painting too, unless like you're using mixer brushes in Photoshop or something. And so I started with acrylic, but most of the traditional painters that I was following, they were doing oil stuff. So
yeah.
as I was learning how to paint, I was trying to get the look of oil without even really thinking about this is an oil look that I'm trying to do. I
Mm.
was just kind of like inspired by a bunch of oil painters.
Yeah, what kind of painters are you inspired by?
Oh, I don't want to say names because I'm going to mess them up. I'm not going to pronounce them right. And I'm also going to forget people. But but I noticed that you follow a lot of the same painters that I follow
Oh,
too.
okay.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of great. That's one thing I love right now too. Um, I mean, people that are getting started right now have it so much better in so many ways because, I mean, just the convenience right now of like just having a friggin' iPad. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
like Sean and I were talking about that. Like I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but afterwards we talked for a little bit and just like can you imagine if I had an iPad like this when I was a kid? You know what I mean? Like what I
Yeah.
could have how because it's so convenient, to work on and play with. But just Instagram alone,
Oh
opens
yeah.
up the world to so many artists out there. Every day I see another artist where I'm like, holy crap, that person's amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have half of the exposure that I do now if it wasn't for Instagram. I don't know where I'd
Yeah.
find all these people,
Yeah.
you know?
It's pretty awesome. Um, so one of the things that I really love about your work is so you've got a natural caricature type of ability with your work, but it's like it's a nice happy in between portrait and caricature, which to me is one of my favorite types of caricature because you're there's enough exaggeration there that it's basically exposing the character, like pulling the real character of the person out, but it's not like so over the top where it's like, what is that? You know, sometimes it goes too far. But your brushwork is my favorite thing. Like you have, and it kind of pisses me off, to be honest, because it is difficult. It's really difficult, I think, to express a lot with little, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you have a way that pulls me into your work. I was like, oh man, I just love it. It's just like there's something about. I mean, sometimes it almost seems like I can count the brushstrokes in a way. And then sometimes it's even tighter than that. But excuse me. But my question is about that is where does that come from, and like what's your kind of approach to that, like what's your mindset, I guess, because
Yeah.
it looks, and I don't mean this in a weird way, but sometimes when people look at work that's more brushy, or like not brushy but like you know, it looks more loose in some ways, it seems easier than it is, and I can tell from experience that it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm
Yeah.
just curious about that.
Yeah, I started as a well, okay, so I went to I got my undergrad degree at a liberal arts college right out of high school, and then when I graduated, I started doing live caricature stuff. And so I got really into caricature. I went to a couple of ISCA conventions, and yeah, and I was really into caricature and also illustration. And originally I wanted to do what you do basically, and illustrate for magazines and do like really like realistic digital but painterly caricature work. And so what was the question? Oh yeah, so that's where the exaggeration comes, because I'm self-taught, and I learned quite a bit after graduating, quite a bit on how to draw and how to paint. And with the simplicity and like the minimalism and saying more with less, I think that comes from I can overthink and overanalyze and overworry and overwork my paintings so easily. And I actually like made an effort not to work very long on my paintings, and I started just really focusing on the technique that happens at the very beginning of a painting and trying to make that really efficient. And then just little things that I liked that came from painting really fast, I would zero in on and try to reproduce in my next paintings. And yeah, so that's cool that you noticed that.
Well, yeah, no, I love it. And I also love a lot of, there's certain areas of your painting will, one of the eyes will be way softer and kind of almost a suggestion or something like that. And I've done all these kind of things as well, like as far as trying out things, but it's always hard for me because I'm always like, no, I gotta bring it to this super hyper realistic finish. And sometimes when you do that, it makes the work feel real stiff. But I mean, like when you're doing illustration work for magazines and stuff, they're expecting a certain level of finish. Where I have tried in some instances to get away with that kind of stuff, but it's like, the only people that ever allowed me to do that is like the New Yorker and maybe Rolling Stone. But most publications are like recently there was one I did, which I wish I could show. I can't remember the name of the mag. Oh, it's called Nature Conservatory or something like that. Anyways, I did one of my favorite portraits recently, and I'll share it soon. But it was that kind of a thing where I was allowed to just kind of be expressive with my brushwork, and that hardly ever happens with illustration work. And again, I'm not complaining, but that's all I do basically, and I don't have as much time for my own work. So when I see your work, it's like I feel like I can live vicariously through you. I'm like, yes, Lindsey, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like I get excited. I'm like, that's killer, man. Like even
but that makes sense that magazines would want more what you're doing, because it's more obviously skilled and impressive, and like it's more obvious to people that tons of work was put into it. And I don't know, like even if it's impressive or appealing, like lots of times people look at my work and they just feel like it's cheaper or worth less because it's not that much time was put into the individual piece,
Those people are idiots.
Well,
like I love, for example, I think it's the last piece that you shared on your Instagram. It's a nude, a woman pose, and it's just beautiful. I love it. It's like a Photoshop painting, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
And and it's great because you can even, here's the thing that I think is great too about what you're doing is you're not letting digital fuck with you. It's like, it's just an extension. It's just this is how I paint. It doesn't matter what medium I'm using, and that's great because there's a lot of artists where that doesn't happen, and I think that's what makes digital painting great in some ways is when an artist can do that. Their voice can just come through, and people say that all the time too about what you just said about your work. They say that about my work when it comes to digital stuff, like, oh, he just did that. Gosh,
oh yeah,
he just did that digitally. That's not, that's just, he can just, put things together, whatever. And it's so annoying, but at the same time,
because I used to just do digital stuff, and so I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah. I mean, the funniest thing about it is like, it's, when I first got started in this, nobody was doing digital. And it wasn't that long ago. So it's kind of weird because everything has changed so fast. And it's really strange now too, because for years, it took me years to like develop a way of painting digitally where I felt like my digital paintings feel like paintings, like I want them, sometimes they're super realistic, right? But I want it to be a certain, I want it to feel like when I paint with acrylic or oils. And it took a long time. But what's pissing me off right now is like Kyle Webster, who I love to death, does amazing brushes for Photoshop, and then friggin', the iPad, Procreate, and everything. Now they're making these brushes and all these things that, like, everybody's just like, it's like, I don't know. I guess I'm complaining because the technology is like catching up. And, and it's like frustrating because, like, there's been some people recently posting things where I'm like, I can't even tell if that's a traditional or
Procreate, especially well, you can do crazy stuff with Photoshop too, but like Procreate I noticed has a lot of like little tricks that they'll do that doesn't even have to do with pressure sensitivity, but it like just looks like really realistic. Like with their brushes, they have like I don't know. Judd uses Procreate a lot, so I've messed around on it, and it's like harder to get the control because there's not the same pressure sensitivity and stuff. But also with getting it to look traditional, there's like little I don't know. The software is just
it is crazy. It's crazy how fast it's changing, which is cool. I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with the iPad. Um, but I think that's great though that for you that like you're one of those artists that it mingles in it all. You know what I mean? There's way too many artists out there that just do digital, and it's crazy to me. It's crazy. Have you? I'm sure you've met or know artists that cannot draw or paint traditionally at all, but then they do like these amazing digital paintings. You know?
Yeah, or even the opposite too. Like, you can learn a lot painting digitally because you can paint so fast and you can really like experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just experiment without worrying like so much
Yeah.
more. And I think all artists should learn how to paint digitally and try to
Yeah.
experiment with, like their technique and stuff.
Yeah. I like to kind of think of it as sort of like the Matrix a little bit because I agree with you 100%. You can you can experiment with colors, composition, and different things way quicker.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter if you make some kind of mistake, you know. And I found out too. I find that the more I paint digitally, I do learn. My daughter's up there like making all kinds of crazy. But the more you paint digitally, you know, because you can work faster, you do take in more and learn a lot more. Again, like what I said before, you learn how not to do certain things.
Yeah.
And then when you go to do traditional, you're like, oh yeah, this is something I figured out, whatever. But then I still think though that it's just as important to be painting traditionally because, you know, every single time I paint traditionally, there's just nothing like it. There's nothing like that feeling, and you learn so much about. I mean, most of my digital stuff is because I've painted traditionally. I'm like, oh, I just love how that brush stroke worked with this, and then I'll try to mimic that when I work digitally. You know, I need to traditionally way more though. I haven't.
Did
had
you
time.
paint traditionally first? Because you
Yeah.
went to See, I did have some experience with it in undergrad, but then when my skills took a huge leap after undergrad, and I was doing a lot of live caricature, but then also digital painting. And so like I think of that as like my start, like my base was digital painting. And I don't nowadays I do way more traditional stuff than I do digital stuff, but it's just weird because I think I started with a base digitally. So like when I think like brushstroke experimentation and stuff for me is actually easier to do digitally, like to experiment with stylized brushstrokes and stuff. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, that's just, you know, that's one of the conveniences of digital painting. I mean, it's it's cool, you know, like right now I'm doing like these I just got done doing these crazy paintings for an ad campaign where they want them to look like vintage sort of Rosie the Riveter type paintings. And so I did a lot of experimenting digitally to try to figure out like how I can make brushworks and different things to feel like those paintings as much as possible. And so that was interesting. But then on the other hand, I'm doing this other job where I've got to do other posters for a different company where one of them, they want it to look like Jack Davis. And like one of his movie posters, like pen and ink with watercolor refill, but I'm doing it all digital. And then another one, they want like a Rembrandt. I did like a Rembrandt style. And then the other one is all like 80s airbrush looking, which, but the cool thing about the digital thing is, you know, you just kind of, you can easily, I'm not an airbrush artist. So if they had to do this traditionally, it'd be like, oh man, I don't know. Like I'd have to learn how to do airbrush, but you know, with digital, I can just play around with airbrush tools and just figure out how to get it to feel that way. So there's definitely advantages.
I don't know how some artists do traditional illustration. That'd be crazy to me. No, you never do that, do you? You always do digital for.
Yeah, but I did do it. I started off that way, and that's why I do digital painting now because my first illustration work was all acrylic, mostly. I did some color pencil and watercolor, but mostly it was acrylic, which was my first real watercolor, and acrylic was my first mediums. And I mean, the problem was the deadlines. It was just frustrating and crazy, and then you have to scan it and you have to color correct it, and then you have to like try to like eyedrop or stamp out like dust specks and different things, and it's just like, oh, this is so annoying. And then if there's changes, there's always changes. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And
Actually,
then
I forgot. Judd and I did a board game illustration project in color pencil. That was the first illustration job that we got, and that was crazy. Yeah.
So did you have to do a lot of like changes and stuff to it?
Yeah, and we just have to do brand new drawings, basically.
It's so frustrating. See, that's the thing is, I started just becoming super stressed out. And then my buddy Joe Bloom, him and my dad kept trying to talk me into getting a Wacom tablet, and I refused it for the longest time. So I thought it was just like, it's cheating. That's not, and most of the digital art then just I thought sucked. A lot of it did. It just, I could tell right away it's just digital, and it just looked too smooth and whatever. And so that's how it all started. But I've basically jumped into it and realized, oh my gosh, I can paint with this, and I can leave my thumbprint. I can, and that's again coming back to like one of the things I love about your work is there is that thumbprint, like, so I'm glad and excited for you that you're able to do it with digital and traditional, kind of keep that same feel.
Thanks.
Because that's really, when it comes to like, even fine art, illustration world, whatever, having your own voice is like one of the most important things. And it's hard. It's really hard. Like you can't really just you can't just decide I'm going to have a style. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
you have to build up to it.
It
has to be like more, well, for me anyway, it has to be more natural. When I try to force it, it doesn't. When I try to force a style, it doesn't really work out.
Are you a fan? Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, are you a fan of like James Jean? Do you know who that is?
I might know his work, but not his name. Sometimes I'm bad with that.
You got to look up James Jean.
Okay, James Jean.
Yes. The reason I brought that up is because he is this guy who can do like every style you can think of, like any medium, and I think he's gonna blow your mind. Because he's one of those guys that literally can do every medium, every kind of technique to a level that's just masterful. Like oils to like he did tons of stuff for Fables, like graphic novels. And one of the best books, one of my favorite books is, I think it's just called Fables, and it shows all the covers that he did for this graphic novel series. And it was right out of art school. He got hired by this company. And his first ones were way cruder, but they were like done with like oil on paper. And you just watch him develop and grow, and just all of a sudden he starts getting into digital, and it's like, holy crap. Now the guy's like doing stuff for Prada, and like he's huge. He basically just became like, I would put him in the category as a Picasso of our time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Say his name again?
James Jean.
James Jean. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look that
you gotta look him up. I believe he's Chinese. I met him a couple times. He looks like he's 12 years old. He's really awesome though. He's so good.
I can relate to that. I look like a kid.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. But I wanted to ask you about talking about not the simplicity of it, but the illusion of it, just because there's like, like it just feels like there's I don't know how to explain it. Just like there is such like a looseness in some ways, but it still, there's enough information, I guess. It's like, that's one thing I think about your work is there's just the right amount of information, which is what makes it so awesome to me. And I'm wondering about your process. You said that you try to do it really quickly. You don't want to spend too much time, but it doesn't seem like you do much underpainting. Is it more of a direct approach with like larger brushes?
Yeah, usually I change it up a lot, but sometimes I'll even do like a pencil sketch first. Sometimes rarely I'll do like a black and white underpainting, but because another thing that I was trying to go for is like I wanted to get this like really loose, impromptu, spontaneous feeling that comes with like live painting from models easier than it does painting from photos. I remember when I did live caricatures, people would come up to the booth and ask if I would do one from a photo. And lots of times I said no, because it was just way harder for me to do an exaggerated, loose caricature from like a photo. But back to the question. So I was learning things that would kind of force the issue, would force me to be more loose and get that sort of live painting feel, even though I was painting from photos, and going straight to using big blocks of color with really fat brushes was one thing that worked really well for me.
Yeah. And do you typically start with like the bigger brushes and just kind of work large or small?
Yeah, typically. And then nowadays I'm even like not even going down to small brushes, and I'm working on big canvases, so I have like 8-inch brushes, and like go down to like maybe 4 inches, but then keep it there and finish the work like that.
And are you like, how large are the paintings that you're doing?
Not that big, but like, I think the biggest that I have is this like 3 feet by 3.5. But I want to go a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
Soon, but
are you a
that's
fan
what grad
of,
school.
Sorry, you just reminded me of someone else. Do you know Jenny Saville's work?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if I'll ever go that big.
I don't know. I mean, I really would love to eventually. I mean, I gotta finish a bunch of paintings I've already started that I haven't had time to finish. But yeah, she's one of those artists that, she's another one of those artists where I can just look at her work for the longest time.
Yeah, me too.
Just like it's just, to me, it's painting. The way I look at painting, there's a couple different ways. There's one way where it's like, okay, this is a job, and my job is to create an image that tells a story or captures somebody for someone's article or something, and I need to do a good job and represent this person, and hopefully it feels like them. But another way of looking at painting, the way that I think of it, is it's a language, and maybe not everybody understands the language, but when I see something like Jenny Saville's work, to me, her brushwork it tells me so much, and I feel like it's like a message to me. You know what I mean? Like there's something about it where it's just like, God damn it, Jenny Saville. Yeah. Or like when you see like a Sargent painting up close, and I remember this one painting I saw recently in Chicago. There was an exhibit here, and man, it was just an awesome painting. And it was like a man and a woman. The woman had this beautiful like silk dress on, and it was crazy because I went up. First of all, one of the hands, it looked like it had 3 or 4 brush strokes, and it was crazy. And I would step back. And I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Yeah. And it started getting me mad, you know. But it also was inspiring me, like. And I was at the time I was doing this oil commission, and I was like, I got so inspired, you know, because I just felt like, man, like I don't have to like go in there and do all the little creases on the knuckles and all that kind of stuff. Like that's pointless, you know. And what's the point? Like, how does it look when you're standing 20 feet away, 10 feet away, you know? And then like the silk dress, you get up there, it's so thick and expressive, and you're like, how did it? And you step back and it looks like a silk dress, and it's just magic. But it's like a language, you know. It's like, it's amazing.
I love it when you can get a sense for how like the movements that the artist made to do the stroke and to get the information down. but you don't know how to reproduce it though. That's what I love.
Oh, yeah, it's
It's like a
crazy.
mystery how they did it, but you kind of know how they did it. And that's part of like the allure of looking at it, is you can feel how they painted it,
Yeah.
but still can't reproduce it.
Have you seen his watercolors?
I don't think so. I think I've only seen his oil stuff.
It's really funny because when I first was introduced to Sargent, it was because like I was really obsessed with watercolor. Like that was like my first thing, and I feel like watercolor is one of my natural mediums. I don't get to do it as much now, but I can paint anything in watercolor, and it's like I feel like it's an extension of me, and I love it. Like I always laugh when people say how hard watercolor is because I'm like, it's just so much fun. It's not that hard. You just don't know how to do it. You know, you got to think a different way. And then my dad, you know, he's an artist, and he's noticing my passion for the watercolor stuff. So I was introduced by Sargent because he bought me this book. It was Watercolors by Sargent. So it's amazing. Like all of his watercolors were done on location, obviously. At that time, they didn't really paint from photos or anything like that. And what the coolest thing about it is, if you look at his watercolor paintings, first of all, they're just gorgeous. But because you can almost feel like you're there with him, where he was standing. If you hold up the book and you look at his watercolors, or if you see him in a museum, just slightly squint your eyes enough where it goes out of focus slightly, and it looks like you're standing on that location. It's crazy. Like the way that he captures the lighting and everything. And
that's one thing that I haven't messed around with is watercolor.
Yeah.
Too much, because that's like magic medium to me. That's
it's a fun medium. You can do a lot of really beautiful, cool things with watercolor. So I thought Sargent was a watercolor artist. That's what I was like. He's like one of the best in the world. And when I was in art school, I was in a watercolor class for a little bit, and it was like a semester or something like that. And we had to list our top watercolor artists. And my professor kind of laughed a little bit when I go, John Singer Sargent. It's like, because he's not the one that people think of, you know. And I was like, what? Isn't he like one of the best watercolor artists ever? And they're like, no, there's, you know, Winsor, Homer, and whatever else. I can't remember their names right now, but and then that's when I found out that Sargent is actually known for being one of the most amazing oil painters ever, and the watercolor was just something he did for fun. That's funny. On his little trips, he didn't even, you know, they're like studies, and I'm like, so then when I started getting into his oils, I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt like an idiot.
That's funny.
But his paintings are amazing, man. Yeah. Him and I really love Zorn a lot as well. But yeah, that's crazy. So what's your, you know, what kind of things you've been working on lately?
So the school that I'm at is really like content based versus they don't really focus too much on how something is painted or how it's executed, or like, you know, what we would think of as painting skill. And they're more interested in the content of the work and the subject matter. And so that's good. I chose this school because I really wanted to go somewhere where I was like really out of place and like pushed out of my comfort zone completely. And that's why I went like here instead of like New York Academy of Art, you know, them. And they, anyway, yeah. So I've been, first of all, last summer I did a lot of self-portraits from mirrors. I did that pretty much all summer, just kind of as practice, getting ready for grad school to start. And then lately I've been doing paintings based off of old family photos. It's just like weird, dark stuff.
Oh, you got a fucked up family, huh?
Yeah, we all hate each other.
Weird, dark stuff.
No,
that's hilarious.
I don't know. Cool, no, it's more about just like it's more just about feeling disconnected from your past and the way we remember things and the way we, I don't know. It's more about memories and loss, like losing your past and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Rather than, yeah, thanks.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's really
yeah,
cool.
I'll start posting it pretty soon, hopefully.
I can't wait. Do you have to bring things to get photographed, or how do you do that? That's one thing I find so difficult about traditional stuff.
Yeah, and I put like so much pressure on it too, where I don't even want to do it anymore because it's like, I don't know, I put a lot of pressure on taking a really good photo and doing it the best way that I can and having to set up the lights and everything. And it's a lot of work. So I'm going to start just like snapping quick photographs and posting those and sharing those and not even trying to take perfect photographs that could be like so made into a print.
I can't do it. Like, it's so frustrating. The last few clients, I just felt so bad because I could not. It's very frustrating. Like, the painting in person looks so good, and I'm like, oh, this is looking great, and really happy about it. And then I go to take a picture of it, and the picture looks like crap.
Yeah, I know.
And then I have to send them a picture. I'm like, it really looks good, trust me. And they're like, well, what about this over here? I'm like, trust me, it doesn't look like that. and then I found myself taking a photo and then like painting digitally on top of it to like make it look better.
Yeah.
And it's just like hassle. I don't know. And there's like a place in Chicago that you can bring paintings to get photographed. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't afford to have someone do it for me. I have to.
Yeah,
I just have to learn not to take it so seriously and feel like I have to get the perfect representation of the painting. It's just like it's not going to be perfect. I just have to photograph it. And
it's weird too with oils. It's strange because you've got certain areas that are drying different times sometimes than the other area of the painting. You've got areas that, like, once you like re-wet it or varnish it, it'll be soft, but right now it just has like this weird look. And so there's stuff like that, like where they needed to see an update, and I'm like, well, the reason this area looks like that is because it's kind of drying, and so frustrating.
Yeah, I noticed that oil is a lot harder to take photographs of.
Yeah, because acrylic dries pretty flat and like matte-like and stuff, but acrylic is a bitch though. It's like, it can be frustrating because like I hate how like it, I don't know, it's weird. It's one of those mediums that's like a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
Where like I just feel like, sometimes it's so much fun, because it can work really quick and then it dries and you can lean on it and it's like so easy to work with. Yeah. And then it's like, oh yeah, but I can't match the background of the spot I need to match, even though I'm using the exact same colors, but it won't blend in. It always is going to dry differently. And there's things like that where I just like, oh.
Yeah, matching colors is really hard with acrylic.
It's frustrating.
Like, because they always dry differently than how they look when they're wet. So it's almost impossible to get an exact match.
Yeah, and it's only frustrating like this particular project. I had to have like almost like these flat kind of backgrounds behind these portraits, and it was impossible with this. The one of them I did in acrylics, the rest I did in oils, but the one in acrylics is like, I want to shoot myself. It was so frustrating.
Well, I learned acrylics first, so like that's how I was when I was first getting into oil, and I only just now feel like I can actually do stuff with oil now. It took like a long time, and I was basically using oil like acrylics. Like, I was putting it on there really thin so that I could put layers on without really worrying about blending or doing too much wet on wet type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only just now, after like at least a year of messing around with oils, that I feel like I can like I really have control over it, like as it's like wet and juicy, and will mix with the color that you put down, will mix with what's already on the canvas and stuff. Like that used to just mystify me, but I feel like I can.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, like the drying time and everything. And there's so many different techniques of like wet into wet. But it's more I think in a way it's more forgiving.
Mm.
And it's more, but it's also I think that oil painting is kind of like playing chess in a way, where acrylics is like checkers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same game, and you have to think a couple steps ahead sometimes.
Yeah.
But it makes it exciting, you know, because I think the
Yeah.
thing about oil paintings, it feels like it's alive. Like,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
what.
like, yeah, it just, I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
started doing like only oil because everybody at Cranbrook hates acrylics. They're not really, but they're all like pushing me to use
snotty
oil.
about it.
No,
Oh,
no. A lot of them use acrylic actually, but not. They're not doing the same kind of like painterly stuff that I am. But
mm,
I get a lot of push to do oils because yeah, it looks more alive. You have to like add mediums to acrylic in order to get it to look like
yeah,
juicy or like yeah. And oil's prettier. It's right off the bat. It's just prettier
yeah.
and nicer to
Well,
look at.
the way it I don't even know what the right word is right now. Illuminates the light. Is that the right word I'm thinking of? It captures light, like light goes through it and bounces out through it, and I don't know the right
Mhm.
terms. Um, I don't have the artsy fartsy terms, but
That sounded right.
yeah. Um, real quick before I want to show you some fan art, but real quick, I was curious too, just about your palette choices. Is there a specific type of palette that you like to work with? I noticed, you know, sometimes you'll have a painting that feels almost desaturated in a way, very limited, and then you'll have another one that's just got just awesome colors and, you know, just over like a little bit of green here and there and different things like that. So I'm just curious what kind of
Uh,
thing you work with.
I work with a full palette always, but I try to make different sort of bold choices with like what I'm going to use as like my base colors and stuff. And I mix them each time with like just um, blue, yellow, and red. And then I use ivory black and white and a couple of browns. But I'm like mixing all my colors each time, so I think that
Mm,
they turn out different
yeah.
each time, just kind of automatically. And also like I have like kind of like this um, colors are arbitrary mentality. Like values are what matters, so I should be able to use any colors that I want.
Yes.
And yeah, I've never gotten like really into like realistic flesh tones and
Yeah.
trying to do all of that.
Hmm.
I just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of make a decision with what color to start with, and then I
Yeah.
pick colors that go.
So, so sorry, you got kind of cut off there, but I totally. I think that's one of the best ways to think about it. Um, I've been teaching for a while now, and students, it doesn't matter what age or whatever, anyone that's wanting to get into drawing and painting, they always want to skip past the drawing and start painting. And so I always have to try to reel them back. Like, no, 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 no. You don't painting. Don't even think about painting right now. You're not there. The drawing needs to be. You got to focus on the drawing.
Mhm.
Um, and then when we start going to painting, it's like going crazy with the colors and whatever else. And it's like, no, 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 no. You got to focus on the values. And the way that I think about it is just what you're saying is that, um, like, I mean, when I'm painting, I'm not, you know, I think more about temperature and value. That's like, is this
Yeah,
going to be cooler or warmer?
yeah,
Um,
temperature.
and the value is the most important thing. Most of the problems I see with paintings that aren't working is they look flat or something because the values aren't right.
Hmm.
And I think people a lot of times are too focused on trying to get the exact skin tone.
Yeah.
And
And
it,
also, I'm thinking about saturation a lot too.
yeah,
How saturated something is compared to the color that it's next to.
mm,
That's really important because that
yeah,
will influence influence. All the colors on your page will influence each other, you know?
Yeah.
And you can get you can almost get like a warm neutral color to look cool, depending on the other colors that you put around it. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like relationships of colors, but
Like
not so much.
vibration, basically, with the color, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that's so much fun. It's so
Yeah.
cool, man. That I have a painting that I did of George Lucas, an acrylic I did a while ago, and it's really funny because I see it all the time because it's my wife has it hanging next. She's a painter as well, and she did a painting of space, and so she's got my George Lucas painting by the space painting, which I think is pretty funny. But I always see it, and I'm always like, this is so weird looking at it now after all these years because I painted it with the Zorn palette, which there's no blue in the palette. It's just black, yellow ochre, cadmium red, I think I used, and white. That's it. But when you look at it, you see in the hair, you see all this blue, like in the shadows and different things. And there's no blue in the palette, but it's like what you just said. It's like that. It's like a vibration off of the other colors. It makes it seem blue. But if you isolate it, I've done this before where I just put my hands around a certain section. I'm like, oh, that's just white and black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Like what is that? I've heard that a lot. Zorn
palette. Yes.
Yeah.
Zorn Anders. He was Swedish, and he was like kind of like a John Singer Sargent type artist. He's amazing. One of my favorite painters. And he used a very, very limited palette. And it wasn't cadmium red. I think what red was it that he used? I'm blanking on it. Anyways, it was black. You can look up his palette. It's basically yellow ochre. I think it's ivory black, and it's just white, and then it's like a cad red, and I can't remember now. But anyways, you can switch out the red. You can do the same exact palette, but use a alizarin or something, and you can get like a whole different vibe, where it'll just be a cooler version, palette. But the thing that's really cool about it is you automatically, it's like working with a primary palette, but you're switching the mood. So basically, to get violet, you're gonna mix black with the red and a little bit of white, and you're gonna get almost like a muddy violet.
Yeah.
And then there's no pure yellow, it's just yellow ochre. So when you want like oranges, you're gonna mix that with the red, and you're not gonna get a pure orange. You're gonna get an orange that just sings in that family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like to get my
like
green from yellow and ivory black.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the same kind of the same exact kind of thing. You'd love it.
Cool.
And it's amazing how much of a range you can get with that palette. And that's pretty much what I use for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will use like French ultramarine blue, and sometimes I'll use a cobalt just to if I need it for something. But I like to, sometimes client wants something more like a certain color. But it's a really fun palette, and you can really do a lot, especially with portraits with that palette. It's a lot of fun.
Do you try to do that digitally too?
Yeah, I do it a lot digitally. That's what I teach when I do my portrait class. I teach the Zorn palette, just because I try to get students to kind of stay away from the. Photoshop just has just an overwhelming amount of colors. Like if you open up palette, it's just ridiculous. And I try to get people to stay away from the whole eye dropping thing, and if you just keep it limited, and it's funny. I did a workshop or a demo at the Lightbox thing in Pasadena, and people were so confused what I was doing, and I thought it was the fun. You would have thought that I was doing like some alien thing. They're like they were asking like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm mixing my color, because what I do is I make a palette, and I actually have like my like the yellow ochre color and everything. I have like dots, and I just use my stylus, and
Uh-huh.
I change this button so it does the eyedropper, and I just mix my color by eyedropping the color, and then I
Yeah.
just mix them together, and I mix the yellow ochre with the black, and I put some white, and I get like a greenish, and I add some, the violet in there and whatever else, and I'm mixing color, and then I'm going over and painting, and people are like, "What are you doing?"
That's
It's like
funny.
it's
Yeah,
called painting.
there's so much you can learn digitally that applies. That's not medium specific. That applies to other kinds of painting. But you have to know that you want that, and you have to know, like you're going to focus on those things rather than using the tools that help you not have to focus on those things, like the
Yeah.
eyedropper and stuff. Like, yeah, if you just don't use that and instead you use a palette and you do stuff more in the traditional way with digital painting, you can learn so much.
Yeah.
You can learn so much faster than you can just like jumping right into traditional stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I even do underpaintings digitally, which some people are like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Well, because the final result is going to you're going to see, like, sometimes I'll do like a red underpainting or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and then when I'm painting, I'm letting that red pop through.
Yeah.
Now, that like the reason I did that is because you're going to see that red, those little bits popping through are going to make that painting feel like it's alive. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
like a movement energy there. So it's just like, I think painting is painting.
Yeah.
And I try to not, when it comes to the computer. I mean, there's definitely times that you have to, you take advantage of the computer. I mean, especially when you're doing crazy deadlines. So there's someone, like, there's a lot of times like art directors will send you like this logo or something last minute that's supposed to go into the painting, and it's like, I am not gonna draw that thing. I have like 10 minutes left, so I'll just
Yeah.
like put it in there and just like kind of pan on top and make it. So there's things like that like, oh, this helps, but
Right.
for the most part, I prefer a sort of a struggle when painting. Even digitally, like setting the settings a certain way, because it just helps. It helps it to have that originality.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with using tools to create a better product, but you just have to know that it's not going to teach you how to paint traditionally.
yeah,
Like, if you want to learn how to paint traditionally while you're digitally painting and have the skills be transferable like that, then you have to like not use those tools a lot of the time.
yeah,
People used to get really offended. Yeah, things have changed so fast because people used to get really offended even by calling a digital painting a painting. Like, they would take
yeah,
issue
yeah.
with that. And people, for a while there, people were really scared of digital painting.
Hmm.
Some traditional painters were. I remember how it was. Like, people were testy about it because it was, I don't know, they probably just didn't understand it. And
Yeah, it's weird. I
yeah.
still get that. I still get people like, I just ignore it.
Mm,
Like, do you ever do any real paintings? I'm like, yeah, every day I
yeah.
paint, every single day. Um, Anyways, there was one question that was sent, and the poor guy, I tried to, I like when people send in audio, because it's more fun when you hear their voice, and
Yeah.
but the question, this was by Juan Gastelum. He just said, why so serious? Is happy underrated? Like your art, burn all love songs? Something? I don't know what that means. But I think he was saying, because in your pictures seemed like you were like kind of like, a little in the poses.
Oh,
But you said they were from some kind of a thing you did for some kind of project or
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Death of a coworker. Yeah, it's a bunch of portrait artists were exchanging photographs and painting each other, and I took those for that. So they're reference photos for portrait artists to paint.
I just told him that you're a really sad person. So
Yeah, well, that's true too.
yeah.
Very angsty.
So there's a lot of fan art, so I want to show you that before we get going here. And so let me know if you see this. I'm going to share the screen. Do you see that?
Yes. Oh, wow.
Okay, good.
So who
Now,
did
for
this?
some reason, I don't see you anymore, but that's fine. Normally, I can see this, but as long as you can see the art, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is really nice. This is by Laurent Grasat.
Okay.
And I really like the brushwork on this one. It's awesome.
This is nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you know what? I got to tell you, you got a lot of excited fans that were just excited. So hopefully they'll enjoy our talk. But
cool.
the moment I posted that you and I were going to talk, I got drawings and paintings instantly.
Yay!
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's very cool. This is a cool,
wow.
This is by Joaquin, and I don't think I got a last name for that one.
Okay.
So sometimes I don't know who the people are, but yeah, this is cool too. Nice brushwork.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this is by my buddy Bernd Windenauer. I don't know if I said your name, buddy. I this is one of those names, and he's a friend of mine. He's going to be like, "What's wrong with you, Siler?" Weidenauer, I think is how you say it. But Bernd is awesome. Do you know Bernd?
I'm not so good with names. Lots of times I know people, but then
okay.
I lost your image. Can you still?
Oh, you can't see?
Oh, but I can hear you though. Anyway, this is cool. What's with the box there?
I don't know. He actually did like 3 pieces, so I'm going to show you 3 of them that he did. He's known for, he loves to use orange, and he likes to wear orange, and he's obsessed with orange. He loves orange. Right. So this is the first one, and here's another one that he did. So he did. I don't know what the box is in the first one.
Nice. Cool.
And then this one is another attempt. All nice little.
Ooh, I think this is my favorite.
Nice little traditional. Yeah, it's cool. I like that. It's cool just seeing the linen there. Like he didn't, paint, because normally you kind of like gesso over the whole thing or whatever. So it's kind of a cool look.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, this raw canvas thing. I've actually been trying to do that with some of my new work. I really like it. Yeah,
it's fun. Yeah, Bernd is awesome. He's an awesome dude.
What's his name?
Bernd.
You'll have to send me a list of.
Yeah, I'll email you the artwork as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, this is another one he did. He did 4 of them.
Ah.
Jiminy Christmas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ooh. Nice.
Yeah, this one's cool too.
Yeah.
You look like you could be a villain in the next Stranger Things or something.
Yes. And I'm definitely a villain.
Yeah. I love that the stroke of like yellow ochre looking color and right next to your part in your hair there. It's nice thick paint. That's awesome.
That's
nice.
Really awesome.
And I love this one. This one is by Jan op de Beek.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure if you saw this one yet. He shared it online, but
I haven't
really,
seen it
really
yet.
Cool.
No.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love the use of color in this one.
Yeah.
And just the way that he approached in his brushwork in this was just, I don't know, this is really cool. I really enjoy this one.
Yeah, me too.
And one thing I love too is I love that, like if you look in the part in your hair, just that how bold that blue is.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as purple, but yeah, I love that. I was just looking at that.
It's probably my screen. My screen might be off a little bit.
No, probably mine actually, but.
Oh. See, I see the more the violet color in the sweatshirt jacket, but it's like it's a nice touch there. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Nice work. Whoops, I went backwards. This one is by Jack Lemonnier.
Oh, I love this.
Lemonnier. Yeah, it's very, very nice.
Yes.
Very cool.
I really like my hair.
Yeah, it looks good.
Texture of my hair, yeah.
This one's cool. like a
Ooh,
Terminator.
moody.
Yeah. This is by Jonathan Hunt.
Jonathan
But
Hunt.
yeah, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's nice. Very cool. I like this one a lot too. This has got a really nice style to it.
Yeah, it's unique.
This is by Devin Corwin. Very cool. But yeah, this is cool. This is like it's like one of those. You step back and it's everything kind of pulls together. But I like the boldness of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, me too. I like how there's super dark areas and then it jumps away. Like the next dark area is pretty light compared to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This one is by Waleed Shahab.
I'm crying.
Yeah. Very sad. That's funny. And
nice.
This one is by Dominic Zeilinger.
Nice.
Zeilinger. Yes.
Like this.
It's very cool. He submits a lot of stuff and I love it because he always does something different style wise. Like he's always, yeah, it's really cool. I like that. He's very creative. He does like really, this one is more really a cool, interesting way to do line work, but a lot of times he'll do like some kind of concept or something that you're like, wow, are you on mushrooms or something? But I know he's awesome.
Yeah, I like how simple that is.
Yeah. This one's beautifully done. This is by Andrew Sonia. Sonia.
Very pretty.
Yeah, I really like this a lot. Yeah. Really beautiful paint work or brush work. It's got a real nice classic feel.
Yeah, the area around my eye is I really like that.
Yeah, it's really nice. I believe they submitted one last week as well. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think they did one of Sean as well. Really cool though. Yeah. This is by Juan Gastelum. He's the one that asked why you were so sad.
Oh. He didn't draw me that sad though.
No.
He made me more
You look like you're seeing mommy kissing Santa Claus, but you're not sure if Santa Claus is daddy or who that guy is.
Yeah.
Is that daddy? I love this one. This one cracked me up when I saw this. This is by Sei Mi-yoon.
Oh, I recognize that name.
Yeah. Hopefully I said the name right, but this is hilarious.
Very funny.
At Caricature Party, it says.
Oh.
So yeah, this is pretty funny. And this one is by Aaron Philby.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah, you almost look like a Chucky doll.
Yes. That's hilarious.
Oh, that is funny. I love like the distance, like how the side of your face is just stretched, like the distance from your ear to the nose,
Yeah.
It's awesome. Almost like E.T. a little bit.
Yeah, I love how my cheeks are like pushed up around my lips. I really like that.
It's awesome. This one is by Ryan Biddle.
Nice.
Cool.
I got a lot of drawings. A lot of paintings and drawings.
Yep. I told you. It's crazy. Wow. This is the last one. This is by Jenny Stout.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is really cool. I like her style a lot.
Great.
I actually met her a couple years ago. Really cool person. She, I did some artwork for this this movie, and my friend did this thing. I don't know if you heard, if I posted things about it before, but called Mutton Chops, and it's a really hilarious short that they did. It's about the apocalypse, and these guys are surviving in the desert, and it's really, really funny. Anyways, they asked me to do some artwork for it for like the end credits, and I got to go to the premiere, which was really fun. They had it in Burbank, And Jenny, that's where I met her. She actually painted their movie poster for them, and it's just awesome. She did an amazing job. And yeah, so I got to meet her there, and she does a lot of cool stuff. So
yeah, it looked like a graphic novel character or something.
Yeah, I really like her style. It's really
cool.
I'm curious how she did the texture on your sweater, though. It's interesting.
Maybe just applied a texture on it.
I don't know. I don't know how to do those things.
Apply textures and stuff.
I don't really mess with that kind of stuff, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've looked at her work recently again too. I like her style. It's a very almost like animated type feel. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought of anime when I looked at this.
Yeah, it's cool. Cool. So let me see. Tell me if you see me again.
I do, but everything's whoa. There we go.
Am I back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Sweet. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And yeah, thanks again for joining me for this. It was just an awesome, fun time talking with you. You're a lot of fun to talk art with, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah. Any parts, if I said anything stupid, you can just edit that
out. Those are the parts that I actually do slow motion on. And,
okay.
Yeah. But before we split, is there anything you want to promote? Let people know where to look and all that kind of stuff.
Just my Instagram, at Lindsey Lively Art. I haven't posted anything in a while, but I'm gonna start real soon.
Awesome. And she has, even if she hasn't posted anything in a while and you haven't seen it, check it out because she's got tons of awesome stuff on there. One of my favorite things you did too, by the way, is I love that there's like a bunny you had like jumping, stuff like that. Yeah. I love when you do animals. Animals are so much fun.
I have a lot more of those old, they're old now, digital paintings that I did that I still need to share and post. So.
Oh yeah, you got to get posting them. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. It was a real pleasure talking with you. I had a great time.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah, awesome. This was great. And we'll keep in touch for sure.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks to everybody who drew me and painted me too.
You want answers? Truth.